Hello, hello, Ahava community. Welcome back to our live interview series, The Things That Hinder Us from Loving Well. This is our final interview of this series, and I just want to say a huge thank you to all of you who have been with us from the beginning and to all of you who have joined us along the way. I am truly, truly so grateful for you and for our amazing guests whose wisdom we have been so blessed with. And today we have a very special guest for a very special topic. So I want to welcome award-winning writer and author Cathy Baker to the conversation. Hi, Cathy.
Hi. How are you?
I'm so excited. I am great. I am just thrilled to be talking with you. I've been looking forward to this conversation when the Lord lined out this series, and He just put you on my heart to talk about waiting. And I have been so excited and so encouraged at the feedback that we've gotten on social media when we've been talking about this. It is a topic that touches hearts, and I know that everybody is going to be so blessed by your words today. So as we're getting started, guys, I want to tell you about my friend Cathy. As I said, she is an award-winning writer and author of Pauses for the Vacationing Soul, which are two sensory-based devotional guides for the beach and the mountains, some of our favorite places. She's a hope writer whose work has been featured in Southern Writers, Living Real Magazine, Chicken Soup for the Soul, and Focus on the Family. She and her husband live in the Carolina foothills, where she writes from a space lovingly known as the tiny house on the hill. And you're going to be able to connect with Cathy at cathybaker.org or visit her amazing Facebook community called Creative Pauses. So, Cathy, thank you so much for being here. I am super excited to dive into this topic with you today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
This is awesome. Okay, so I started out the week, guys, with a question on social media, and it was very simple, and it just said, why is it so hard to wait on God? And Cathy knows a thing or two about waiting, and so that's why I just really felt like the Lord laid her on my heart to share with you. But as we're getting started, I want to share with you some of the answers that we got on social media about why it is so hard to wait on God. So our friend Shay Sizer Mason said, trying to discern what you're hearing while you're waiting. Our friend Sandy Dobbs said, when waiting includes suffering to be relieved. I love what Abby said. She said, being open to the possibility that He's already answered, just not how you expected. And I know you've got something to say about that. Susan Reams said, not jumping ahead of Him with my own solutions. I think that's something we all struggle with.
Yes.
My friend Liz said, hoping it's not too long of a wait and the unknown of the outcome, especially when a child is involved.
Yeah.
And then our friend Vicky said, not obsessing over the outcome. I find myself focusing continually on the end result, but in the waiting, I know He desires for me to lay it aside and continue with my daily journey. And there's so many more that I want to get back to, but I want to start this conversation with you. So, Cathy, why is it so hard for us to wait?
I mean, I think it's human nature, right? You look at the Word, it's full of instances of people who had to wait, some who did it really well and some who did not do it, so well. So it's not a new struggle, and it's a struggle, I believe, for all of us. And then when you think about the world that we live in, for instance, a couple of weeks ago, we ordered a part for our pool, and we ordered it from a retail supplier. And within 2 days, my husband were like, where's the package? Where is the package? And then we realized, we did not use that supplier. Amazon spoiled us all. So now it's like, if it's more than 2 days, I mean, it's just too long. So I think, instant gratification is the mantra of our day, pretty much.
Yes. Yeah, and you're absolutely right.
Yeah, it always tugs at us.
It does. So since we're so used to that in our flesh, and it meets, those expectations that we have for our groceries, our packages, our movies, our entertainment, all those different things, how does that bleed into our spiritual walk? Let's talk about that.
Wow. Well, I think that, and I'm a bottom line kind of girl, I think it comes down to one question, and that is, do we trust God? Do we trust His goodness? Do we trust His faithfulness? Do we trust that He is for us and not against us? And I think it can bleed in that, because if we don't believe that, or if we think we do, but our actions prove differently, then I believe the temptation is that we want a quick fix from God. And if we don't get that quick fix from God, we are either going to try to make it happen ourselves, or we're going to pull away from the Lord. I think it has great implications to our faith. Yeah. So I think that's a huge part, is if we trust him, and if we don't, then we're just going to pull further away from him, I believe.
Yes, I agree with that. I was reading, somebody posted on Instagram this morning, and I hope I don't butcher this quote, but it's by A.W. Tozer, and it says, "What we believe about God is the most important thing about us."
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I love
That's
that.
so good.
It's absolutely true. Isn't it though? Yeah.
So
And
good.
it all comes back to that, because if we're not rooted in who he is and who he is to us,
Yeah.
then circumstances, especially surrounding weight, when we're so used to that instant gratification, it's just going to cause us to completely derail and take us
Exactly.
on a path that is going to be even more painful than the weight itself, right?
Yeah. Right.
So
Absolutely.
that being said, why do you think God makes us wait?
Well, at the risk of sounding simplistic, I've given this some thought, and I believe he makes us wait because he loves us. Because think about what we learn in the wait.
Yeah.
This morning I was reading through the comments, and I believe it was Raquel King who said that she has kept a record of the things that she has learned in her wait and how valuable that's been. And we would be robbed of those things, if we didn't wait. So there's so much value in that. And I believe he does it for our good and for his glory. I think he teaches us patience. I think in that wait, we also have a fresh opportunity to really see our heart and our motives. Do I really want what God wants, or do I want what I want? And a lot of times we learn lessons in the wait that we would not learn anywhere else, So I believe those are reasons, some of the reasons.
Sure.
Yeah.
I agree with that, because when things are going well, we don't always need him like we do when we're waiting. We don't always seek him like we do when we're waiting.
Yeah.
And so you're right. I think it's because he loves us, because he knows that the most important thing is abiding with him and hearing from him and knowing him. And so if causing you to wait is what causes you to do that, then out of love, he's going to give you something to wait on, right?
Exactly.
So I completely agree with that. And it's, again, it's so simple. We always overcomplicate, don't we? And
we do.
he loves us, and so we have to wait. And it's not about the destination, it's about the journey.
Exactly.
And we miss out on so much if we overlook that. So let's talk about what it looks like to wait well.
Well, I think I have it in the post also, the Joyce Meyer quote. I jotted it down. Patience is not simply the ability to wait, but how we behave while we wait. I think that's just so huge. And I was also thinking about growing up. My dad had an organic garden before organic was cool. And we also had a greenhouse in the backyard where we sold and planted tomato and pepper plants. And I was thinking about that period between the sowing and the reaping, right? There's that pause between. And during that pause, after you've planted the seed, you see nothing happening. Nothing.
Right.
Nothing is happening. You do not see anything. You don't feel anything. But life is churning under that soil and bringing it to fruition in its time, right?
Yes.
And I just think waiting well is recognizing that in the same way, we may not see God at work. We may not see his hand. We may not feel him or hear him. We may feel more distant from him than ever. But life is churning under the soil of our soul. God is working in us. He's working in those circumstances. And I believe to wait well is to trust, like we said before, trusting in God. And through that trust and trusting that pause in the season, then it brings stillness and kind of a content heart. And that's, to me, and what I'm learning is so valuable to wait well, is to have, just to be content and to trust him.
Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah.
And contentment is the key, because we might be walking through a season where we see, or it seems like God is coming through for
Right.
everybody else. And
Right.
everybody else is getting their breakthroughs, and everybody else is getting their answers, and everybody
Yeah.
else is seeing him, just do amazing things in their stories. And
Yeah.
we're still sitting back and it's crickets for us.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That journey is happening in a place that we're just seeing no evidence whatsoever. Even though we know God is working, we're
Right.
still comparing our story and our journey to other people. So how does that comparison trap affect us and our ability to wait well?
Well, at the risk of being quote queen, I will say that Theodore Roosevelt, I think he just says it best. Comparison is the thief of joy. And we're
Yes.
missing that joy the moment we start looking to the left or to the right. When other people have what we've been praying for years, we've been waiting for that child, and our friend, our neighbor blinks and she has three, or a wayward child, or a husband to love Jesus and to want to go to church and to know Jesus, have that kind of relationship.
Yes.
And we see it around us, but we feel like it's just not happening. We've been praying maybe for years for these things.
Right.
But I think it always comes back to trusting God and trusting that he has our good. And I think it's also encouraging, and I've seen this happen several times in my life, where when God wants something to happen, we think it has to happen. Oh, for instance, I want to be married. So it will, we'll have to date. I'll have to meet somebody, and then I'll have to date, for a year. And then, we'll plan a marriage for another, this goes on in our mind.
Yeah.
But what I've seen is that when God is involved, it can happen like that.
Amen.
It can happen like that. And it's the same for having children. It's the same for seeing him answer our prayers for our marriage. It can happen, and it will happen in his time.
Yeah.
We have to believe that.
That's right. Our friend Lisa commented this week, and I'm sure you saw it, and I kind of got tickled at her, especially knowing her personality. She's so feisty, and I adore her. But she was like, I like to think of it as the Burger King prayers, the have it your way, God, And I was like, that tickles me so much, but it's so true, because normally it's my way. Burger King, it was genius marketing, have it your way. And we love it. We love the control of it. And but instead reverse that and say, have it your way, God.
Absolutely.
And it's so freeing when you do that. And I was listening before we were getting ready for our interview. I love to listen to Pandora Radio, and Elevation Worship is one of my favorite stations. And I was listening to Bethel music, and it was that It Is Well with My Soul.
Yes.
And so it all ties into this of just have it your way. It is well with my soul. Whatever you choose to do, I know that if I'm abiding with you, you have my best interest at heart, even though I don't understand it.
Right.
I'm going to wait on you. And you're so right. There's a contentment there. There's a peace there. And there's just a rest there that we can experience when we relinquish that demand for an answer or that demand for a result, and just trust that it's going to come to us when our hearts are ready to receive it, because he also makes us wait sometimes because he knows we're not ready to hear the answer.
That is a great answer. Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, but when we're going through all of this, and I can speak from personal experience, I can be really miserable to live with. In the past, I have experienced seasons of waiting, and I have not done it well. And my family and my immediate people around me have paid the price for that. And so that's one of the points that I want to make in our conversation today, Cathy, is how do we love others well, even though we're going through a season of waiting? How can we separate that?
Yeah.
Maybe not even separate it, but tie that into what we're doing on a daily basis, even if we're having to explain to the people that we love our struggles. But how do we love our people well and not lose sight of loving others while we're waiting on God?
That's so good. So good. Such a great question. I think that it always comes back to being in the Word, right? I mean, there's a risk of saying, oh, it's so cliche, but there's nothing cliche about being in the Word It's
That's right.
living and it's active. And
Yes.
I would even go a step further and say, stay in Psalms for a while. Stay in Psalms, because there's David. He's waiting. He's in war. He has so many things going on. He pours out his heart, raw emotions, and some of them are pretty ugly. But what I love about the Psalms is that by the end of the Psalm, he comes back around and he recognizes who God is. And so I read a Psalm a day, every day. I just go over and over for that reason. It's just so full of wisdom and comfort and encouragement. So I would say stay in Psalms. And then I believe a lot of us journal. But that's a wonderful way to keep a written testimony, of what God is doing, his faithfulness, right? And I brought my little journal. It's my Adventures with God journal. This is not a prayer journal. So this is different. And this is something I started last year. And I'll show it. I mean, inside you'll see I just have lots of little random thoughts, just random thoughts. But when I spot God at work, I mean, it can be, like you said, in a song, it as well. It could be in nature. It could be something that someone says to me. It speaks life into me. I jot it down. And I will go back and just read the pages. But what that has done is it has raised my anticipation. When I get up in the morning, I've got my journal and I'm like, okay, God, let's do this. I want to see what you're doing. I don't want to miss it. Open my eyes, open my ears. So I wrote a post about it with a little more information, if you're interested. But it's transformed my walk, my time with him, my daily, time with him.
Tell us the name of the post, because I think we want to go back and check that out.
I think if you write Adventures with God, it will pop up. Journal. Okay. Yeah.
That's awesome. Y'all go check that out. I'm going to.
Okay. And I'll send you the post link if you want to put it in the notes or something. I didn't really think about that.
Let's do that.
Also, I would say, and this is something I've learned this year, is a constant laying down our will. And for me, it is constant. It's so constant that I've learned how to catch it. So the moment I feel like I have to make something happen, then I know I've overstepped my boundary. Yes. And I back up and I say, Lord, please forgive me. I don't want to get ahead of you. I want you to lead. And I know the moment I feel that anxiety raising up and say, oh, okay, well, you better do this, or it's not going to happen.
Right.
Right. And so, I got to make it happen then. Right.
That sounds like a story we read somewhere in the Old Testament, right?
A little bit. Yes.
A little bit of Sarah action going on.
A little bit of Sarah action. Yes, absolutely. So, and I think continuing, this is, throughout the word, people are waiting. You keep serving. You keep serving others. And because when our eyes are off ourselves and our circumstances and they're on other people, I believe God blesses that. Because anytime we don't want it to be self-consumed, and that's exactly what happens if we're not careful during the wait.
Yeah, so. I love that you said that. And it just makes me think, you never know that the answer to your question or the answer to what you're waiting on might come in those times of service.
Absolutely.
And if we refuse to do that, then we're going to miss it. And we're going to go around the mountain a few times, like those wandering Israelites, until just a few. I don't know about you, but I've been around the mountain a few times on some things that the Lord has had to teach me. So but you're right. If you accept that, not only just like resigning yourself to it, but joyfully.
Yes.
Stepping into that. And it's really hard to say, those scriptures in the New Testament that talk about be joyful in those circumstances, be joyful when it's hard. Doesn't say be happy, it says be joyful. We were talking with Lane even about joy a few weeks ago and just the difference between that. And you're right, it goes back to a choice in your behavior because you can't control the circumstances, but you can choose how you respond to it.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where we miss it so much at the time, that when things just aren't going our way, and from a cultural standpoint, I mean, you think about it, everywhere we get and we're bombarded with, we just act
Mm.
like a bunch of babies. We throw fits, you
Yeah.
know? I mean,
Yeah.
I do. I throw tantrums sometimes, and I'm just like, Jesus needs to put me in timeout right now because I'm just throwing a little tantrum. Just do this. And it's true. But to
Mhm.
be able to just sit back and go, okay,
Mm.
I'm with you. I am joyful in the fact that
Mm.
I know you're working, and I'm choosing to see that. You know, Lane was talking about having to fight for our joy. And I
Right.
think we have to fight to wait well as
Yeah.
well. Do you agree
Yeah.
with that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a choice. It is a
Yeah.
choice. It doesn't just happen to us. It is
Yeah.
a choice how we choose to move through that waiting period. And it will, I think it has the opportunity to shorten the waiting period if we handle it well. You know,
Yeah,
if
that's
we're
good.
learning what we need to learn and we're open and humble and a heart of humility, Lord, teach me, you know. I've seen him do this before, and I feel like it was probably a shorter wait than I deserved, you know. So, and sometimes
Yeah.
it's longer, but
Yeah.
I think he does, you know, respond to how we choose to wait, whether we wait
Yeah.
well or not.
That's really good. So what would it look like
Mm.
if when we know we're in a season of waiting, we know
Yeah.
that there's something that we're waiting on God to either
Mm.
answer or do. What would
Yeah.
it look like if
Hmm.
we purpose every day to wake up and say, first of all, God, I give you my yes,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
Second of all, I trust who you are. And I trust that you love me and you're working things out for my good. What if we
Yeah.
just said that every day, over and over again, you know,
Hmm.
the day in and day out? How would that change the way that we
Hmm.
wait? You know?
Yeah. I think we'd transform it. And
Yeah.
not just the weight, but the day to day. I mean, you think about going through our day with that attitude. Oh my goodness, I believe there would be a lot of transformation going on, not only for us, but for our families, for our community. That's a great point, great attitude. Yeah.
And I think that's God's design in the midst of all of
Hmm.
this. You know, it's
Yeah,
not about, he's not the holy Santa Claus. He's not here just to
that's
give us
right.
whatever shiny thing we decide we want in that moment, and we place our order and ka-ching, we're done.
That's
You know,
right.
he knows more and he knows better, and he wants to write a story through us. And if we
Mm,
give him the opportunity to do that, you're
yeah,
right. So many people can be transformed alongside you as they see, because if you're waiting well,
yeah,
especially in a culture that doesn't celebrate waiting well, people are going
absolutely.
to wonder what in the world is wrong with you, or why in the world are
Yes.
you different? And you can say, Jesus,
Yeah, that's
that's
a
why.
great
Because
point.
I mean, our ultimate point and our ultimate purpose in all of this is to share Christ through
Yeah.
everything that we experience in life. And those hard times of waiting can be just a point that we can meet with
Mm,
somebody heart to heart and say, I understand you. I
yeah.
get you. I know what this feels like. Here's what I walked through, and here's what God
Mm,
has taught me through all of this. Can I tell you about God?
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's what it's all about.
Right.
So I would love to
Right.
hear from you just some of your biggest lessons that you have learned in your own seasons of waiting.
Mm. I think one of the lessons I've learned is that the season of waiting can also be our season of greatest growth
Mhm.
spiritually, you know, and like we've talked about, in learning patience and learning to lean on the Lord and not, like you said, ourselves with our hands folded in the corner and, you know, whining.
Right.
Um, I know that for this past year, which has been an especially interesting year, I guess for all of us, obviously, you know, in one sense, but um, I've grown through this waiting period. It's just been it's made me ask the Lord, you know, am I where I need to be? And then um, you know, am I moving in the way that you want? Am I
Yeah.
giving up my desires? And it's
Yeah.
also had to do with, you know, like my eating. Like the Lord has really convicted me of being obedient in my eating. And I've
Right.
never thought about being obedient in my eating. I'm ashamed to say that
Yeah.
because I've been a believer for 30 years,
Sure.
but I just have ignored that, quite frankly. And so he has shown me that he is interested in all the details, you know, of our
Mhm.
lives. that's one thing I've learned through the waiting. And I also think that he blesses a willing waiter, not the kind that brings sweet tea, and not a
Right.
perfect one, but a person who is willing to wait on him.
That's
I
good.
believe he pours out his blessings. I have seen that this past year. And I'm not saying it's been a perfect wait by any stretch of the imagination, but I have been willing to wait this past year. And he's been so good. And he would be good even if it didn't happen or whatever.
Right.
But I believe he blesses if we are willing to wait well.
That is so good. I hope y'all heard that. I hope y'all jotted that down. I'm going to create a graphic for that and put it all over social media because it is something that needs to be shouted from the rooftops. So I love that you said that. It's just such a powerful point. So you were sharing with me a few minutes ago about how you felt like it was a good place to camp out the Psalms, when you're going through seasons of waiting, that just being in the Psalms is a good place to camp out. Do you have any other scriptures that have just really ministered to you or have really stood out to you during these seasons of waiting?
Yeah. Well, a couple have really stood out in Isaiah. I jotted them down just in case, and they are, the first one is one that's very well known, 40:31. Yet those who wait for the Lord will gain new strength. New strength. They will mount up with wings like eagles. They will run and not get tired. They will walk and not become weary. And another one is Isaiah 55:89. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. And that's just, those are a couple I've written out and posted on my bathroom mirror just to greet me in the morning and to remind me there is value in the wait. There's value in the wait.
Yeah. So good. So good. Yeah. And I love that you put them in places that you see every day, because we do need that constant reminding. It's not one of those where you just read it one time, upload it to your brain, and go about your day. It's something that you dwell on. It's something that you keep coming back to. It's something that you continue to fill your heart and your mind and your spirit with the truth of his word, the comfort that brings. And I love what it talks about in Isaiah, where it's reminding us that it's not in our own strength. When we are sitting in that place, like you're talking about, of abiding in that word, claiming it over your story and that part of your season, there's an overflow of joy and energy and peace that comes.
That's true.
For you to be able to operate throughout your day, waiting well, being example to others as you wait well. And it's something that it's not of ourselves, it's from him, because we're abiding with him in those times. So I love that you brought those scriptures to light. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So as we close out our conversation, I would love if you have a word of encouragement for the woman who is in a season of waiting right now. What would you say to her?
I would say to her to hold on, hold on, to trust that God, your Father, is for you. He is not against you. He is working behind the scenes in your life at all times. He is churning life underneath all those circumstances. He neither slumbers nor sleeps so that you can, right? I mean, what peace he brings. And he makes everything beautiful in its time. In its time, he will make whatever you're waiting for beautiful, more beautiful than you could ever imagine. Yeah.
Such a good word. Thank you so much for that. Friends, if y'all have enjoyed this conversation with Cathy, I know you are going to want to connect with her on her website, and that is at cathybaker.org. And you can also find her on Instagram at Cathy Baker. And again, check out her Facebook community. It is a beautiful community with some really amazing ladies, and that's called Creative pauses. And I will have all of the links to those in this video in the comments once we are finished. And then I wanted to tell you about a couple of freebies that Cathy is currently offering on her website, and they are called What to Pray For in Every Room of Your Home and 31 Ways to Pray for Our Children. And I know you will be blessed by these resources. So again, I will give you a link to those in the comments of this video once we are finished. And I am just, Cathy, I'm so grateful for you. I'm grateful, first of all, for your friendship, because I get to see you every week on Zoom and we get to talk, and I love that. But I love seeing what the Lord is doing through your ministry. And guys, I would encourage you to go check out what the Lord is doing through Cathy in her organization. She is just doing a beautiful job, and she is such a beautiful servant for the Lord. So
thank you
so much.
You're so kind.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime. We'll do it again.
Yes.
So guys, as we close out this interview series, The Things That Hinder Us from Loving Well, I'm sad, but I'm also excited. I want to tell you about a bonus interview that's going to be taking place this Friday here in the Ava community with the author of the newly released devotional journal called Embolden. We're going to be talking with Amy Debrick, and she has a wonderful new book out that we're going to be talking about. So she's going to be sharing her heart and her passion behind emboldening us to love well. So I thought that was a great way to close out this series, to just wrap it all up, tie it in a bow, and just really embolden us as we step out and love others well. And she's going to be offering a copy of her newest book that just came out this past Friday, so you're not going to want to miss that. Be sure and tune in. It's going to be a special time. Lastly, this is not the end of our live interviews. It's just the end of a series. We have a new series that's going to be starting in May, so that'll be next week, and I'm excited to share with you. It's going to be called I Want to Be a Good Mom and I Want to Be a Good Christian. So we're going to be talking about that, because I think oftentimes we feel like we have to shelve ministry while we're raising a family or while we're helping with grandchildren, whatever season you're in. We don't have to shelve our ministries. And so we're going to be talking to some really amazing women about those topics as we go into the month of May. So tune in next week on Wednesday at 12:30 Central Standard Time. I'm really excited about the women that the Lord has brought for these discussions. So, okay, that was a lot of information, but I wanted you to hear it first. And I'm so excited for what God has in the days ahead. So until next week, I want you to go love your people well, sweet friends. And thank you so much, Cathy.
Oh, thank you. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.